Welcome to the Forward Forum podcast, where real talk for women who are called for more. I'm your host, Colette Coakley, and today's episode is one of many and one that we've all been waiting for. Or maybe you've been trying to avoid it. It's time to talk about menopause. That's right, not whispered, not sugar-coated, just real, raw, and necessary. Because too many women are going through it alone, and we are not going to let that continue. Today, I'm joined by three incredible women: a doctor, a healer, or a nutritionist, and a truth teller. Dr. Gloria Bowles Johnson is a seasoned OBGYN. Ashley Brooks is a certified nutritionist specialist candidate. I think I got that right. And Nkeshi is a woman who lived through this menopause, and is here to tell the truth so others don't have to suffer in silence. So let's get started. Let's start with Dr. Johnson, Dr. Bowles Johnson. How about I get that right? So with menopause, what is actually happening in our body during this transitional period? What's happening, and why is it so misunderstood?
Well, I think what's really happening to the body is it's really about aging, actually, and it's about your ovaries aging. And so I think that why is it understated or not talked about is because of many generations it was just kind of like a taboo that you really didn't talk about it. And I think women were less educated about it also. So there was no conversation about it. It was just part of, like, as they called it, the change of life, which really was the fact that you couldn't have babies anymore, your period stopped, and nobody really talked about the big issues, which is like the hot flashes, the insomnia, the sleep deprivation, the brain fog, the memory loss, all of those things that are really more pertinent other than just really talking about your periods are stopping and you can't have babies anymore. So I think that's, if that answers your question. I think that, the uneducated back in the day, or the lack of education for women to really be able to have the conversation and talk about it, because it was just an accepted part of life. And you also have to remember, like, many generations ago, women didn't even live like long enough to even really experience menopause, or even to be able to have the conversation about it as they were kind of going through it. And we have to remember menopause is a phase of life. So it's an ongoing phase of life, but the symptoms that lead up to it in that transition is actually called perimenopause. But menopause truly is, the definition is when a woman goes 1 year without any menses and she's of the appropriate age, which the average age for American women are around 51, really about 50, 51. That's the 50% bell shaped curve. So there are women that go through it before and women that go through it after. But, back in the day, women died of infectious disease, they died in childbearing. And so they may have not even made it actually to perimenopause or menopause. So that's important to, like, remember that. But it really was kind of like not talked about. It was like put underneath the rug, right? And it wasn't like an open conversation with your girlfriend. You just went on with life the way life should be.
And so, you said a couple of things, but I want to get you to list a few more. What are some of the symptoms that we as women experience?
So the symptoms kind of start for most women in their 40s. And again, that's the perimenopausal phase of life that can be anywhere between 8 to 10 years to the onset of what is considered true menopause. And true menopause is when your periods stop. 1 year, no more periods, and that's menopause. So the symptoms are cumulative. And the reason why women have symptoms is because it's a period of fluctuation. And that period of fluctuation is periods where your hormones are actually lowering, but they're also fluctuating. Thus, the combination of that brings on symptoms. And those symptoms can be very varied. But if you talk to most women, they can have some degree of these symptoms. And so the first thing that a lot of women will notice is that they can't sleep. They'll wake up in the middle of the night staring at the ceiling, and they just don't know why they're waking up. And then they have a difficult time falling back to sleep. Oftentimes, it can be triggered by night sweats, which is another name is called hot flashes or vasomotor symptoms. But those vasomotor symptoms can happen during the day as well as nighttime as well. But when tend to start, they tend to start in the sense of that insomnia of waking up in the middle of the night. Women will notice that their chest is kind of wet, their back of their neck may be wet, and they wonder why they like woke up. Well, they may have woken up because they had a hot flash. And that hot flash that comes on quickly brings on feeling cold. You get cold. You get this flash, you're hot, and then the next thing you know, you're like cold. So those are some of the symptoms that can occur, but also that lack of sleep brings on other symptoms. And that's where the psyche stuff comes in, the mood lability, the mood disorders, the depression, the anxiousness, the sadness, the crying at a drop of a hat, not realizing why are you crying. And then also the irritability and like basically always kind of feeling tense, and wondering why you don't cope in the way that you used to. And it's accumulation of things because it is, sleep deprivation, but also when we're in our 40s, we're like, we're multitasking now. We may have children. We're taking care of our household, our husband, we're the sandwich generation. We're taking care of our parents. We're taking care of a lot of stuff. So on top of that, not being able to sleep, feeling horrible, and having all these stresses on us just is a means of almost breaking a woman down. And then, of course, there may be some issues with being able to function at work, being able to focus, feeling like you have this brain fog kind of situation. And then on top of that, your periods start changing. You may find that your periods are closer, they may space, they get heavier. They may bring on a lot more symptoms, almost like when you first started getting your period when you were a young girl. Instead of that, where things even out in your 20s and 30s, it almost goes backwards that you're PMSing, you may have heavy flooding periods, lots of cramps and all of those things because the body is still trying to work really, really hard to keep things going.
So we know that food can play a role. Our nutrition can play a role. And can you just give us shed some light on how food and nutrition can play a role in, or actually a positive role in how we react to during this phase of our lives?
Yeah, so during this phase, we know that our hormones are fluctuating. And once we're fully in menopause, there's a drop in our estrogen and progesterone. And most of us don't even realize how important estrogen is to our bodies and the biochemical processes that are actually occurring. And estrogen plays a role in everything from bone health to brain health to cardiovascular health. And that's something that you experience in the way of those symptoms that Dr. Bowles Johnson was discussing. And so when it comes to the food that we're eating, our food is literally giving us the raw materials for those biochemical processes to occur. And so what we're eating, when we're eating more high sugar, ultra processed foods, we're going to start experiencing those symptoms as a result of those foods, which increase inflammation and can look like various symptoms in different people, but it could be by way of bloating, it could be brain fog, it could be fatigue. Inflammation can show up in various ways for people. It can also cause blood sugar swings, and that can also impact your mood as well. So, when we're choosing foods that are giving us the necessary raw materials for our hormones, you're going to see less of those symptoms and have a more improved experience during that time. And so something that we want to make sure that we're incorporating is going to be our whole foods, our whole foods, excuse me, our whole foods. Are going to include all of our macronutrients, so our proteins, our fats and our carbohydrates, right? When you're eating more whole foods, you're also getting more hydration as well. And so hydration isn't just the water component, but also the electrolyte component as well. And you also getting all of your micronutrients as long as you're doing what we call eating the rainbow. So eating various colors within your diet as well. Now, that allows us to get all of those raw materials that I was discussing so that our body has exactly what it needs to help balance out that hormonal phase that we're experiencing.
Wow,
Did
thank
that answer the question?
yeah, absolutely. It answered the question. Actually told me what I might be doing incorrectly. So, I want to get to this story over here where um, the bravery of this woman going through what she has gone through. And Nkeshi, please share with us your story in the phase of life that most of us are experiencing.
Sure. Well, hi everybody. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be on this show. Um, the truth is, I went through menopause early. So when Dr. Bowles Johnson was talking about that, I actually was done with menopause by about 47. Um, and I'm 53 now. I just turned 53 last month. So
And
we're
you look good. You look good. We're
yeah.
gonna, we're gonna give you your kudos while you're here.
Listen, good genetics. I would love to take all the credit, you know. Um, but the truth is I was going through perimenopause in my early 40s. And the problem for me is that it was masked by the fact that I have hypothyroidism. So I'm exhausted, I'm tired, I feel like I'm burned at both ends, moody, the night sweats, all of those things. And the funny thing is the night sweats for me were seasonal. So I'd only have them in the wintertime. And I thought, oh, well, I'm waking up sweating because the heat rises. And so I've got the heat on because I never had them in the summer and the fall. It just only in the winter. So I just assumed, oh, I've got the temperature up. So all these things to me seemed logical. I was moody. I was irritable. I was also a single mom of 3 kids. So, all of these external forces caused me to not realize what was happening to me internally. The
Mhm.
brain fog, the forgetfulness, and again, I chalked it all up to external factors or the thyroid condition. So I was really about maybe 46, I think. Yeah, I was about 46. And my mom had been telling me, I think you're in menopause. I'm like, no, I'm too young. Because I didn't have the hot flashes during the day. Like I would see my older coworkers, they want to strip off their clothes. And I didn't have all of that. So what I found is that what it looks like differs for each person. And so I could not recognize what was happening to me because it didn't look like the thing that I was expecting. So I go to the OBGYN and I'm like, I'm wondering, could I maybe, be in early stages of menopause? And they did a blood test. And I said, oh, you can do that? They said, yeah, we're going to check your hormone levels. So true story. It's actually funny. And I can say this now. When I got the results back, I said, so have I started menopause? She said, oh, honey, you're done. I said, what? I'm 46. I'm too young. I'm healthy. I mean, good. She's like, no, you're done. She said, you ain't got no eggs. She said, you got dust. Sister. But she made the joke to help me feel better because she knew
Mhm.
that I was really shocked. So now this thing has happened to me that I'm not prepared for,
Mhm.
and I have no roadmap for what's next. And
Yeah.
so that's one of the reasons why I wanted to come on here and yes, be brave and tell all my business.
Well, well, holding the business does not help you or others because um we don't we have a tendency to hold everything in and think that it's secret and that we're protecting. And particularly as Black women, we're not sharing. Now, I will say this: I think that the generation that's coming up is sharing a little bit more
Hmm.
because of social media and what we have to answer to. But I will tell you, women before my generation just allowed it to happen and asked you to answer questions, and then they would send you somewhere or they hand you a book, and it didn't feel as open as perhaps that we are today. And that's why I wanted us to have this conversation. um Dr. Johnson, I keep calling you Dr. Johnson instead of Dr. Bowles Johnson, and you're my oldest friend, but I hope that you understand. How can we approach our doctors? We feel something, and 9 times out of 10, at least for Black women, we brush it off. And if it doesn't happen consistently, like every single day, and we're not feeling bad every single day, then we have a tendency just to hold that symptom to ourselves and talk about it maybe in a circle, but we talk about it jokingly and don't get whatever our issues are solved. So, how would you say that a woman who might have some of the symptoms actually come and talk to a doctor?